Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is an interesting study I've been doing, and I want to record it. So I thought I would do a special video here. And I call this the Seed War, starting in Genesis 3:15. A little quick something about myself. I love prophecy. My approach to prophecy is I love to dig into the Word. It stems from my lifelong career as a communication technician. I spent my working years, both military and civilian, repairing communications equipment, which seems to help me also have a desire to investigate things. Even as a child, I loved to take things apart and see how they worked. Well, this now has brought me to my love of discovery, and it centers on the Bible and prophecy in particular. I did believe the days we live in are what God told Daniel in Daniel 12, 1 through 4. So let's bring up some verses and let's talk about that for a minute. At the time shall Michael, so this is Daniel 12, verses 1 through 4. The time shall Michael stand up, a great prince, which standeth for the children of the people. And there shall be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time the people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. Now, this is the verse I'm concentrating on now here. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book. Remember, Daniel wrote this book about 630 BC, 530 BC. So you can see how long it's been. And I believe that this seal has been broken when John wrote Revelation, but that progressively all through the Bible we've been gaining information. Let me finish this verse. O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. I believe this is talking about a time frame we're moving into now. The end times are upon us. So going back and forth through the Bible is what it means, running to and fro is what I believe. And putting things together and seeing the mysteries hidden in God's word as we see more and more information being developed when it comes to science in our world and everything we're seeing happening politically and amongst the nations that points to a lot of the prophecies that were written back in this time. Daniel, Ezekiel had a great part in it, particularly when you get into the last few chapters, down in chapter 36 through 40. So let's begin in the beginning. Good place to start. Genesis 3:15 through 3:20. So let's read through that. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. We set up the stage. It's in that picture you see in the left corner. It's the time when Eve was deceived by the serpent into eating the forbidden fruit. And when God found out, this is the period of time when God is coming down to talk to Adam and Eve, and particularly Satan. This passage here is mostly directed at Satan. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed, when it says thy, that's Satan, and her seed, and it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. And unto Adam he said, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, thou shalt not eat of it, cursed is the ground for thy sake, in sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of thy face shall thou eat bread, till they return unto the ground, for out of it was thou taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return. So we saw there back in verse 15 is what I want to concentrate on. It talks about a seed. And it talks about two seeds. So we're going to talk about those two seeds. And one is the seed of the woman. One more verse, I'm sorry. And Adam called his wife Eve because she was the mother of all living. That's an important verse. Because in other words, that Eve is going to be that her seed is going to continue all the way through to Jesus Christ. And that's really the focus of my, that's why I got that other picture there. Let me show it to you again on a bigger screen. This is that screen, and this is actually a picture of Adam and Eve here in this corner. And then you have Noah and his three sons. And then from Noah, you got from Shem is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And of course, Jacob and his 12 sons. And then out of the branch of Judah is where David comes from. And David had two sons. Through Nathaniel, we have Mary was born. And through Solomon, Joseph was born. Now, it's lots of generations in between. So this is a really highlighted view. So that's what that picture shows there. So it's all about a seed. And ask yourself, what is a seed in general? It's a term God created to reproduce every living thing from the plants and animals to God's final and ultimate creation, us humans made in his image. Now, until recently, no one really fully understood how from that seed something living is produced until a discovery was made of DNA. It occurred in 1869 by a Swiss-born biochemist, Friedrich Mischner. It took more than 80 years for its importance to be fully realized. And even today, more than 150 years after it was first discovered, exciting research and technology continue to offer more insight and a better answer to the question, why is DNA important? We got a quick little video here, it's only 3 minutes long, that will explain DNA real briefly. So let's play that.
Plants to animals to bacteria, even to viruses which were once considered non-living. And most importantly, we humans have it. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid, and although every living thing has DNA, its varied compositions differentiate you from others. The interesting fact is that humans' DNA is 99% the same. Therefore, it is only 1% of DNA that makes you unique. Does this mean twins don't have exactly the same DNA? No, they don't, unless they're monozygotic or identical twins. So now the questions arise. Why every living thing has DNA? What is so important in it? And what does it do? DNA has a recipe for synthesizing proteins. DNA synthesizes RNA, or ribonucleic acid, by a process called transcription, which is further translated into proteins by a process termed as translation. The explanation of DNA conversion into RNA, and finally RNA into proteins, is called central dogma. DNA contains hereditary information that is passed on to you from your parents. If you and your father have the same colour of eyes, or your hair are as silky as your mother, it is because of DNA that you inherited from your parents. Even many diseases are passed on from generation to generation because of DNA. Where does DNA reside in your body? Your body is made up of billions and trillions of cells, and almost all cells have DNA in their nucleus. Can you tell us which cell may not contain DNA? Now let's talk about the structure of DNA. Think of DNA's structure as a ladder whose rungs are made up of different bases and sides as sugar phosphate. Each composition of this nitrogenous base, pentose sugar, and phosphate group is called nucleotide. The nitrogenous bases are of 4 different types: adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. Adenine will always bind with thymine, and cytosine with guanine. This type of bonding is hydrogen bonding. Phosphate and sugar are linked together to make backbone, and complementary bases are attached on it. Due to the bond angle of the sugar-phosphate molecules, the linkages will eventually form a double helix structure. There's a lot more to know about DNA, but that's all for now.
Okay, so hope that kind of explains DNA a little bit. Science lesson over for today. But I like to call this God's programming. Programming code. And we can see that by that video, you can see that all the characteristics that make us us is what it's derived from the DNA. And it makes us all separate individuals too. So as a programmer myself, not anywhere near as much information as DNA holds, but I've done a little programming in the past. And most programmers I've ever met are very, very protective of their code. When they write a program, they protect it. They don't want anybody else to steal it. Well, I think God might be the same way. He's pretty protective of things he created. And so that I believe that that the seed I'm talking about here, and the one we see in Genesis, is this code that God has developed. So like I said, even a seed of a plant, everything, all the information that's needed to grow that plant is in that little seed. Well, it's the same thing when a husband and wife get together and produce a baby. The seed from the woman and from the seed from the man get together, and they produce a new creation, a new human being that has actually a separate DNA structure slightly than the mother and the father. So that's why I want to speak today. And I believe that God wanted to protect that seed all the way from Adam and Eve, who sinned first, all the way to when Jesus died on the cross. And it was important that that seed was maintained all the way through. So I want to break down Genesis 3:15 again. And let's get my verses back over here. So let's break down this verse piece by piece. I will put enmity, okay? Enmity is a Hebrew word that means adversary or enemy. Between thee, so again, God is talking to Satan here, so the thee is Satan, and the woman being, in this case, he's talking to Eve. But also, as I mentioned before in verse 20, Eve is the mother of all living. So her biological seed, and she came out of Adam. So Adam and Eve's seed is in all human beings. It derives through all human beings. Now, over time, though, believe it or not, something I learned about the male seed is that the Y chromosome, which only the male has, the woman has X's and X's, and the male has X and Y. The Y chromosome actually deteriorates. It gets corrupted over time. And you can follow that corruption from person to person. And that's why you can actually follow the genealogy through the human race using the Y chromosome. They've gone all the way back quite a few thousands of years so far. The big study that I was looking at some videos of, I won't get into it here, but if you're interested in learning more about it, Answers in Genesis has a doctor who studies basically the gene pool, and he's been tracing it back through history using the Y chromosome. But either way, so that Y chromosome actually is a way of figuring out how to get to through each generation. But that brings in an interesting question. So back to what I was doing. Put enmity. So there's a war going on now between thee, the serpent, and the serpent always is identified as Satan, and the woman. And of course, the woman here being a human woman. And it says, and between thy seed, thy again is Satan's seed, which ultimately I believe is the Antichrist. That'll be the human being that becomes the incarnation of Satan himself, the evil man that's going to come about in the tribulation. And the woman's seed, which ends up being Jesus Christ in this scenario. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Okay. Well, the bruising of the heel part has actually already happened. It happened to Jesus Christ. And I'll get more into it in a little bit, but here's some verses that's in Revelation 13:3. This is the head version, which would be Satan's head. When we see this in Revelation 13, Antichrist is going to get injured in the head. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And thou shalt bruise his heel. Well, bruise his heel, that means Satan is going to bruise Jesus Christ's heel, and he basically did that on the cross. He did it one other time too. It was actually spoken of in John 13:18. I speak not of you all, I know whom I have chosen. This is Jesus speaking. But that the scriptures may be fulfilled, he that eateth bread with me hath lifted up his heel against me. So you see here that Jesus is actually talking about this prophecy all the way in John during his ministry. And jumping down to verse 26, and Jesus answered, he it is to whom I shall give a sop when I have dipped it. And when he had dipped the sop, he gave it to Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon. And after the sop, Satan entered into him. Then said Jesus unto him, that thou doest, do quickly. Now no man at the table knew for what intent he spoke this unto him. It's also mentioned in Matthew 26:23-25. And he answered and said, this is Jesus again speaking, he that dippeth his hand with me in the dish, the same shall betray me. The Son of Man goeth as is written of him, but woe unto that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It had been good for that man if he had not been born. Then Judas, which betrayed him, answered and said, Master, is it I? And he said unto him, thou hast said. So we got the basic overline here of how this seed war ends up. But I kind of want to what I want to look at today is exactly how we get there. Notice how God states in Genesis 3:17. He said unto Adam, he said, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, thou shalt not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake. I get the impression here that God actually puts the blame of this of what happened here on Adam. The text seems to indicate Adam was held responsible for this transgression, more so than Eve, based on the statement, cursed is the ground for thy sake. Also, Eve seems to get off at this point, as in stated in verse 20. And Adam called his wife's name Eve because she was the mother of all living. So as the mother of all living, we also read in 1 Timothy 2:13-15, for Adam was first formed, then Eve, and Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in transgression. Notwithstanding, she shall be saved in childbearing, if they continue in faith and charity and holiness with sobriety. So it almost seems like that her punishment is actually in childbearing. So it seems that the pain of childbirth was her punishment. But Adam was the bearer of the sin nature we all get. From the male side, I would speculate. And this is based on the fact that Jesus Christ did not have a human father. God, I'm raising this point only because it seems like God already knows that it's through the woman's seed that the sinless man will come. So as I'll show next, I feel that the DNA of humans was required to find its way all the way to Jesus to be the perfect sacrifice. There are actually churches out there that believe, it's actually the Mormons, that the human part of Jesus, want to take the human part of Jesus out and make him separate from the seed of Adam. Which, remember, Eve was taken from Adam. Don't misunderstand me, because every woman ever born, they have just as much sin as men do, but it's through the Y chromosome of the male that the sin of Adam and Eve is carried through to all humans. But in Jesus' case, the male portion is directly from God. Thus, the sin nature is not passed on to Jesus. So God has a problem. He can't change his mind about sin. Someone must pay the price for our sin. Romans 3:23. puts this right on point. For all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. But here's the problem: the sacrifice must be sinless. It was a sinless Lamb of God, no blemishes of original sin. John, the Baptist, actually mentions this in John 1:29. The next day John seeth Jesus coming unto him and saith, Behold, the Lamb of God, which taketh away the sin of the world. So how do you produce a sinless human? And it has to be a descendant of Adam. And also David, by the way, as we saw in a little chart over there, David was from the royal line also. Let's put that picture back up so you can see it. David for the royal line, because as we know, Jesus is both not only our Savior and also died for our sins, but the fact that he was a descendant of Adam and also David. So there was a very specific way that Jesus' original DNA had to flow until he was born. And this is why I believe that the Bible spends so much time trying to protect that seed all the way through. So this is where we see God's solution. And because God could not produce another human to replace us, which is what the Mormons believe. They believe babies are actually formed in heaven by God and some other woman, and that the baby is actually then placed in a woman on earth. But what God had to make sure, he had to make sure the seed that originated with Adam was the one that paid the price for sin. That's the reason God had to flood the earth before all the seeds were corrupted. I can't help but think about that. It's in Genesis 6:2-7. That the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives of all they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of the heart was only evil continually. And it repented the Lord that he had made man on earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and creeping thing, and fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them. So as it said in 6:2, I'm sorry. So we see this corruption of the human genome, except that it's down to like one family that has not been corrupted. And I believe this corrupted happened by the works of Satan trying to corrupt the seed that's going to ultimately become Jesus Christ. So to protect the seed of Adam, God flooded all the corrupted seed except Noah. And we see there in verses 8 and 9 of chapter 6 that Noah, for some reason, it was not corrupted. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. These are the generations of Noah. Noah is a just man and perfect in his generations, and Noah walked with God. So it wasn't corrupted somehow by Satan doing these dirty deeds. And there's actually a lot of theories about how it actually got corrupted, but that there's three particular policies. I won't get into that here. It's not important, but that somehow the seed pool, the DNA, had been corrupted, and God was had to protect that seed by basically wiping out the earth before it completely. So at this point, why would God want to protect Noah if he did not need to ensure the seed of the woman was pure all the way to Jesus? This is why I'm convinced that the reason for the genealogies in Matthew and Luke show us how God protected the seed up until Jesus was born of a woman, in this case Mary, was a descendant chosen as she was in the line from David and Adam to fulfill two prophecies. Jesus as king would sit on David's throne. We see that in 2 Samuel 7:12 and 13. And when the days be fulfilled, and they shall sleep with their fathers, I will set up the seed after thee, which shall proceed out of thy bowels, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. It's also mentioned in Matthew 1:1. The book of the generations of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. So you can see that it's right there in the genealogy also. It's also in Luke 1:32. He shall be great and shall be called the Son of the Highest, and the Lord God shall give unto him the throne of his father David. And he shall reign over the house of Jacob forever, and of his kingdom there shall be no end. And be the seed that crushes the head of Satan, seed, the Antichrist. And again, that's all the way in Revelation 3 and 4. And I saw one of his heads as it was wounded to death, and his head and deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. The dragon here is Satan, and the beast here is the Antichrist. And they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? So the seed from Adam has survived all the way some 4,000 years to be the seed that produces Jesus, who is God by virtue of the Holy Spirit, overshadowing Mary. And we see that in Luke 1:26 through 35. And in the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent from God unto the city of Galilee, named Nazareth, to a virgin espoused to a man whose name was Joseph, of the house of David. See there's a genealogy again. And the virgin's name was Mary. And the angel came in unto her and said, Hail, thou art highly favored, and the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women. And when she saw him, she was troubled at his saying, and cast in her mind what manner of salutation this should be. And the angel said unto her, Fear not, Mary, for thou hast found favor with God. And behold, thou shalt conceive in thy womb, and bring forth a son, and shalt call his name Jesus. He shall be great, and shall be called the Son of the Highest, and the Lord God shall give unto him the throne of his father David. And he shall reign over the house of Jacob forever, and of his kingdom there shall be no end. Then said Mary unto the angel, How shall this be, seeing I know not a man? And the angel answered and said unto her, The Holy Ghost shall come upon thee, and the power of the Highest shall overshadow thee. Therefore also that holy thing which shall be born of thee, I think that's an important statement, born of Mary, be called the Son of God. Paying attention to the reference, holy thing that was born of thee, to produce the only fully human, fully God deity, best known as the hypostatic union. Here's some other verses that confirm that her seed, the woman, Mary, was the seed that produced was the human part of Jesus. In Psalm 132, 10 and 11 through 14. For thy servant David's sake, turn not away the face of thine anointed. The Lord hath sworn in truth unto David, he will not turn from it. Of the fruit of thy body will I set upon thy throne. If thy children will keep my covenant and my testimony, then I shall teach them. Their children shall also sit upon the throne forevermore. For the Lord hath chosen Zion, he hath desired it for his habitation. This is my rest forever. Here will I dwell, for I have deserved it. Also in Isaiah 7:14. Therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, shall call his name Emmanuel. Emmanuel means God with us. Basically an Old Testament word for Jesus. Some others besides I've already mentioned in Jeremiah 31:22. How long wilt thou go about, O thou backsliding daughter? For the Lord hath created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall compass a man. That word compass just means that basically she's going to be pregnant with him. It means to stretch around, to extend, to embrace, enclose. Micah 5:3. Therefore will he give them up until the time that she which travaileth hath brought forth. Then the remnant of his brethren shall return unto the children of Israel. Galatians 4 through 7. This is my favorite. But when the fullness of time was come, God sent forth his Son, made of a woman, made under the law. I think that spells it out pretty good. To redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons. And because ye are sons, God hath set forth the Spirit of his Son into your hearts, crying, Abba, Father. Wherefore thou art no more a servant, but a son, and if a son, thou art an heir of God through Christ. This brings us to the first phase of the prophecy, a culmination of a war that started in Genesis 3:15 between Satan and God. The most important part is it was fulfilled 100% the way God intended. This brings us to this unique individual who is now the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, the fully human, fully God-man. We see this in John 10:30. This is Jesus speaking, I and my Father are one. So there's only one of him, and it's all due to this amazing birth in a manger of a woman's seed and God's seed to produce Jesus Christ without sin to die for us as the only true sacrifice that could pay our sin debt, which is the foot part of the woman's seed to bruise is Jesus' heel, happening through Judas that I mentioned before. I hope that helps us to understand how important it is to realize we could not achieve salvation except through the finished work on the cross. That's in John 19:30. When Jesus therefore had received the vinegar, he said, it is finished. He bowed his head and gave up the ghost. So now I want to switch to the other seed. Be there in Genesis 3:15a. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, between thy seed and her seed. So now I want to talk about thee, or Satan's side. I will put enmity between thee and the woman, between thy seed. Should be Satan's son, basically the Antichrist. So based on the snake reference of verses 14a, the Lord God said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, thou shalt curse above all cattle and above every beast of the field, and upon the belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. This is symbolic, because Jesus uses this term quite a bit when he's talking to people who are not, who are basically doing the work of Satan. It represents this curse until Christ's death on the cross pays the penalty of this death sentence. Matthew 3:7. But when he saw many of the Pharisees and Sadducees come to his baptism, he said unto them, O generation of vipers, who hath warned you to flee from the wrath to come? Matthew 12:34. O generation of vipers, how can you being evil speak good things? For out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaketh. Matthew 13:37 through 43. And he answered and said unto them, He that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, the good seed are the children of the kingdom, but the tares are the children of the wicked one. The enemy that sowed them is the devil, the harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. And therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be in the end of the world. So the Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and them which do iniquity, and shall cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. Also in Matthew 23:33 through 39. Ye serpents, ye generation of vipers, how can you escape the damnation of hell? These are all Jesus speaking, by the way. Wherefore, behold, I send unto you prophets and wise men and scribes, and some of them you shall kill and crucify, and some of them shall you scourge in the synagogues, and persecute them from city to city, that upon you may come all the righteous blood shed upon the earth, from the blood of the righteous Abel until the blood of Zacharias, son of Barachias, whom you slew between the temple and the altar. Verily I say unto you, all these things shall come upon this generation. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou that killest the prophets and stonest them which are sent unto thee, how often would I have gathered thy children together, even as a hen gathereth her chickens under her wings, and you would not. Behold, your house is left unto you desolate. For I say unto you, you shall not see me henceforth, till you shall say, Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. And one more on this subject, 1 John 3:8-10. He that committeth sin is of the devil, for the devil sinneth from the beginning. For this purpose the Son of God was manifested, that he might destroy the works of the devil. In other words, dying on the cross. Whosoever is born of God doth not commit sin, for his seed remaineth in him, and he cannot sin because he is born of God. Another perfect example of how Jesus is sinless, because he is the Son of God. In this, the children of God are manifest, and the children of the devil. Whosoever doeth not righteousness is not of God, neither he that loveth not his brother. So, all through the history, Satan has been at war with God's chosen seed. And as God revealed more of his plan, Satan could concentrate on stopping at first Jesus being born. That's actually spoken of in Revelation 12:1-5. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she being with child cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon its head. That would be Satan. So he's been waiting all along for Jesus to be born to try to stop it. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and they cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman. The woman here is actually Israel, which was ready to be delivered, for to deliver her child as soon as it was born, the child being Jesus Christ. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up to God and to his throne. So there's the opening phrase of what turns into a war that's been going on with Jesus, between Satan and God since Genesis 3:15. And all through the Bible, we see times Satan attempted to accomplish this. The first time was when Cain killed Abel, then the flood. But here is a list. I'll just mention them. I won't read all the verses, but if you want to jot them down, I guess I can continue in this recording. I'll actually read them. Okay, so the first one is all male babies in Egypt were put to death or thrown in the river. This was in Exodus 1:16 and 17. And he said, this was actually the Egyptian, the king of Egypt. And he said, when you do the office of midwife to the Hebrew women and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then you shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she can live. But the midwives feared God and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the main children alive. Jump into verse 22. And Pharaoh charged, when he realized that they weren't being killed, he changed it. And here's the change. Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born ye shall cast into the river, and every daughter you can save alive. Except one. God protected one. That was Moses. And you know the story there. He got picked up in an ark in the river Nile by the Pharaoh's daughter. Actually, I'll just read that verse real quick. And the woman conceived and bare a son, and when she saw him that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months. And when she could no longer hide him, she took from him an ark of bulrushes, and dabbed it with slime and with pitch, put the child therein, and she laid it in the flags by the river's brink. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her maidens walked along by the river's side. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. Then jump into verse. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him and said, this is one of the Hebrews' children. And the rest is history. Moses grew up to bring the people out of Israel. The next one, actually, is the one in Esther. Haman of the book of Esther tried to kill all the Jews. We see that in Haman in Esther 3:8-12. And Haman said unto King Xerxes, there is a certain people scattered abroad, that would be the Jews, are dispersed among the people in all the provinces of the kingdom, and their laws are diverse from all people, neither keep they the king's laws. Therefore it is not for the king's profit to suffer them. If it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the hands of those that have the charge of the business, to bring it into the king's treasure. And the king took his ring from his hand and gave it to Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the Jews' enemy. And the king said unto Haman, the silver is given to thee, the children also, to do with them as they seemeth good to thee. And they were the king's scribes, called on the 13th day of the first month, and there was written according to all that Haman had commanded unto the king's lieutenants, and to the governors that were every province, and to the rulers of every people of every province, according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language. And the name of King Xerxes was written and sealed with the king's ring. So that was a famous time. Of course, Esther upset that by not only praying and getting all the Jews to actually fast, but that through her manipulation of the king, exposed the fact that she was a Jew, and that particular pronunciation would actually fall on her also, and actually got Haman hung for it. So that was another time that God said to a woman, Esther, to be able to stop the elimination of all the Jews. The next one, death to all the babies under 2. Now this happened when Jesus was born, which Herod thought would kill Jesus. This is in Matthew 2, 1 through 8. Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him. When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where Christ should be born. And they said unto him, in Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet. And thou, Bethlehem, is the land of Judah, art not the Israel least among the princes of Judah, for out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my people Israel. And Herod, when he had privily called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, go and search diligently for the young child. And when you have found him, bring me word again that I may come and worship also. That's not what he had in mind. And jumping down to verse 16. Then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceedingly wroth, and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem, and all the coast thereof, from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men. The next one is when Jesus was actually tempted in the wilderness by Satan to bypass the cross, but with one condition: he had to worship Satan. That's in Luke 4, 1 through 13. I think everyone's pretty familiar with that passage. The main part of that, though, that applies here is in verses 5 through 8, which I'll read. And the devil, taking him up to a high mountain, showed unto him all the kingdoms of the world in a moment of time. And the devil said unto him, all this power will I give thee, and the glory of them, for that is delivered unto me, and to whomsoever I will give it. If thou therefore will worship me, all shall be thine. Well, obviously, if Jesus worshipped Satan and bypassed the cross, number one, we would not be receive salvation, and Satan would be in control forever. And Jesus answered and said unto him, get thee behind me, Satan, for it is written, thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. That is not what Satan wanted to hear. But that's the next attempt. And I like this last one I'm going to talk about today, and we'll stop here. Storm on the Sea of Galilee. And this is in Matthew 8, 23 through 27. This is rather, I want you to realize, remember something. These disciples, I think about at least 9 or 10 of them, had spent their entire lives fishing on this same sea. So they were quite aware, I'm sure, of what kind of storms normally came up. But this one scared the heck out of them. So it's in Matthew 8, 23 through 27. And when he was entered into a ship, his disciples followed him. And behold, there arose a great tempest in the sea, insomuch that the ship was covered with the waves, but he was asleep. And his disciples came to him and woke him, saying, Lord, save us, we perish. Remember, these were all fishermen, seasoned fishermen. And he said unto them, Why are you so fearful, O ye of little faith? Then he arose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. It's also in Mark 4:36 through 41, and also Luke 8:22 through 25. So this is one of the most people don't think about. And like I said, most of these disciples were seasoned fishermen, so typically they would know exactly what was happening on that sea. So the next episode of this, I'm going to get into what the future holds for Satan and what he's going to do, what I believe, to try to stop the fulfillment of that prophecy where his head gets smashed in, basically. So let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, oh, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord, so much for this lesson and for all that you teach us. And help me, Lord, to always do it in a way that's honoring to you. In Jesus' precious name I pray. Amen. Okay, so until next time.